The comment appeared under Maya Carter's post like a bruise blooming in real time. She was standing in her kitchen, phone in hand, the low hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. Outside, Chicago rain tapped against the window in uneven beats. She had posted a screenshot from a performance review, exceeded expectations, bolded, highlighted, because she was proud, because she rarely allowed herself to be. The notification buzzed. Figures. Diversity higher bragging again. Her thumb froze. Maya reread it. Once, twice, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less sharp. They didn't. Her chest tightened. Somewhere in the building, a door slammed. She imagined the commenter leaning back in a chair, satisfied, anonymous, powerful in the way cruelty often is. She scrolled. More replies followed. Laughing emojis. A stranger questioning her credentials. Someone else tagging her employer. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark phone screen, brown eyes steady, jaw clenched. Years of swallowing comments like this pressed against her ribs. She thought of her mother's voice. Pick your battles. She thought of her father's. Never let them rewrite your worth. Her phone rang. A co-worker. Maya, he said carefully, have you seen what's happening online? I'm looking at it, she replied. There was a pause. Then, softer, HR is watching. That was when she noticed the older email still open in her inbox. A timestamp, a signature, a line she had almost forgotten existed. Her finger hovered over reply. The rain stopped. The apartment went quiet. Maya attached one image and pressed send. Maya Carter did not usually post about work. She believed in keeping her head down, in letting numbers speak for her. Data didn't argue back. Data didn't smirk in meetings or pause before saying her name. Still, that afternoon, standing in her apartment with her shoes kicked off and rain streaking the windows, she broke her own rule. Exceeded expectations, she murmured, rereading the line on her phone. Her review sat open on the screen, a clean PDF with bullet points and metrics. She had led 3 campaigns. Increased conversion rates. Fix a reporting error no one else had caught. The praise felt earned, not loud. She took a screenshot and posted it with a simple caption, "Hard work still counts." The post went up at 6:42 p.m. At 6:51, her phone buzzed. Maya glanced down, expecting a heart emoji from her cousin or a quick proud of you from a former classmate. Instead, the comment sat there, stark against the white background. Figures. Diversity high bragging again. Her breath caught. She read it again, slower this time. Diversity. Higher. Bragging. Each word landed with practiced precision. Her shoulders tightened, as if preparing for impact. She could almost hear the tone behind it. Casual, amused, certain. Wow, she said quietly. The kitchen clock ticked. Outside, a bus hissed as it passed through standing water. Maya felt the old calculation begin in her head. Ignore it and move on. Respond and escalate. Report and wait. Each option carried weight. Another notification appeared. A laughing emoji from someone she didn't know. Then a reply. What company is this? Someone tagged her employer's page. Her phone rang. Maya, Jordan said. He worked 2 desks over. I don't want to freak you out, but have you checked your comments? I'm looking at them, she said. There was a pause. Okay, I was already aware. Of what? She asked. Of everything, he said carefully. They're monitoring. Monitoring. The word fell hollow. Thanks for the heads up, Maya said, and ended the call. She sat at the small kitchen table, phone resting between her palms. Her reflection stared back faintly from the darkened screen. She thought about the meeting last quarter, the one where a partner firm's director had interrupted her mid-sentence. Let's hear from someone more experienced, he had said, smiling. She had swallowed it then. Maya opened her email, scrolled past newsletters and calendar invites. There it was, flagged but unopened in months. A thread labeled follow-up. She tapped it. The sender's name matched the commenter's handle. Her jaw tightened. She read the message again. The coded language. The dismissive tone. Her own reply. Calm. Professional. Documenting what had been said in the meeting. Ours response beneath it. Let's not escalate. Intent matters. Maya exhaled slowly. Her phone buzzed again. A private message this time. Don't take it personally, a former colleague wrote. People are sensitive these days. Sensitive. She almost laughed. She stewed and walked to the window. The rain had slowed to a mist. Streetlights reflected off the pavement like broken gold. She thought of her parents, of every time she had been advised to be patient, to be strategic, to wait for the right moment. Her phone felt heavier in her hand. Maya returned to the table and opened the comment thread. The racist line still sat there, unedited, unchallenged. She tapped reply. The cursor blinked. She didn't type a word. Instead, she attached the screenshot. Her email, his name, the timestamp. Her finger hovered for a second. Then she pressed send. The reply detonated quietly. Maya didn't hear an explosion. There was no sound at all, just a soft click of a phone as it locked, the way a door closes behind you before you realize you stepped into something irreversible. She set the phone face down on the table. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then it buzzed. She didn't pick it up. Another buzz. Then another. A vibration so long it felt like the device was breathing. Maya. Jordan's name flashed when she finally turned the phone over. She let it ring out. The screen filled with notifications instead. Likes, replies, retweets, quote posts. Her screenshots sat beneath the original comment like a receipt slapped onto a counter. Wait, this is the same guy? So he's done this before? HR told you not to escalate? Her chest tightened. She scrolled too fast, absorbing tone more than words. Support mixed with skepticism. Praise tangled with warnings. Her phone rang again. This time, it was her sister. Please tell me you didn't quit your job online, Naomi said without greeting. Maya huffed a short laugh. Not yet. I saw it, Naomi said. All of it. And I'm proud of you, Naomi said. But I'm also scared. Maya closed her eyes. Me too. Naomi lowered her voice. Do you have backups of everything? Yes. Good. Because people don't like receipts. Maya opened the email thread again, this time on her laptop. The blue glow filled the kitchen. She read every line carefully, like an editor checking facts before publication. The original message from the partner firm director was polite on the surface. Just a note. It began. Some of your commentary in the meeting felt pointed. We value collaboration. Pointed. Collaboration. She remembered the room, the way he had leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, when she challenged a flawed assumption. Her reply followed beneath it. For clarity, my concern was with the data interpretation, not the individual presenting it. She had written, if my tone came across otherwise, I'm happy to discuss. Professional, neutral, careful. Then HR. Let's not escalate this further. Intent matters more than perception. Maya's jaw clenched. Her phone chimed. A new message from an unknown number. You should have kept this private. She stared at it. Another followed immediately. You're making this worse than it is. Maya typed back before she could overthink it. I kept it private. I was ignored. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. This could affect partnerships. She didn't respond. Her work email pinged. Subject, quick sync. She laughed once, sharp and humorless. The video call opened with 4 faces arranged in neat rectangles. Her manager, Claire. Someone from HR, a director she barely knew. No one smiled. Maya, Claire began, folding her hands. We want to check in. I'm sure, Maya said. HR cleared her throat. We're concerned about the visibility of the situation. The situation where senior partner left a racist comment. Maya asked. A pause. We're concerned about tone, the director said. Maya leaned forward. My tone, or his words. Claire interjected quickly. This isn't about blame. It never is, Maya said. HR tried again. We're asking if you consider taking the post down while we investigate. Maya felt something settle in her chest. Not anger. Resolve. No, she said. Silence stretched. May I ask why? The director said. Because the screenshot is accurate, Maya replied. Because it documents behavior your process dismissed. And because if I take it down, the lesson will be that silence is safer than truth. Claire's eyes flickered. We just want to protect everyone involved. Maya nodded. So do I. The call ended politely, stiffly. Maya closed her laptop and sat back. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a journalist. Hi, Maya. I'm working on a piece about workplace discrimination and social media accountability. Would you be open to talking? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she opened the comment thread once more. The original commenter had deleted his post. His name now floated above a blank space. But the screenshot remained. Pinned, shared, archived. Maya whispered, too late. She thought of every meeting she had taken notes in, every email she had saved just in case. She thought of how often she had been told to let things go. Her phone rang again. Naomi. He deleted it. Naomi said, I know. Naomi exhaled. You okay? Maya looked around her small kitchen. The rain had stopped completely now. The city hummed on. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know I'm done pretending screenshots don't matter. She opened her laptop again and created a new folder. She named it Record. Maya woke to a buzzing that didn't stop. Her phone lay on the bedside table, vibrating in waves, a relentless drumbeat that made her chest tighten before she even opened her eyes. Notifications spilled over like an avalanche, likes, shares, tags, and direct messages from strangers. Every ping carried a small explosion of recognition and judgment, praise and doubt. She rolled out of bed, hair still damp from the shower the night before, and flicked through the feed. The screenshot she had sent, a single image, had become a small beacon. Her words were minimal, just the attached email thread. But they were enough. Enough for people to notice. Enough for the algorithm to notice. They're really paying attention now. Maya's eyes skimmed over comments. Some were supportive. Finally someone stands up. She's not wrong. Documentation is everything. Others were venomous, questioning her professionalism, her motives, even her intelligence. She could almost see the type of smirk behind each keyboard stroke, the kind she had seen in conference rooms, in whispered meetings, in partner calls where she had been dismissed. A news alert pinged on her phone. Viral post exposes workplace discrimination at national marketing firm. Maya's thumb hovered over the link. Her apartment was quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant sounds of city traffic. She clicked. The page loaded. Screenshots of her post, her reply, and her documented emails had been embedded in the story. Comments from colleagues, anonymous tips, and HR statements had all been incorporated. Her private frustration, her careful documentation, had become public history, a thread of accountability visible to anyone with a browser and a pulse. Jordan called. Morning, he said, voice low. It's everywhere. Maya swallowed. I can see that. They're asking for comment. CNN, local affiliates, even a podcaster reached out. HR is panicking. I imagine, she said, leaning against the counter, coffee cold in her hand. Good. Let them panic. Jordan laughed softly. You don't sound scared. I am, she admitted. But I'm done being quiet. If they're scared, that's their problem. Not mine. He hesitated. It's just the partner firm director, the one who... Maya cut him off. Yes, him. I know, but the record is clear. Silence. Then just be careful. I always am. By mid-morning, emails flooded in. HR requested an urgent meeting. A lawyer from the company's compliance team asked to speak privately. The marketing director sent a toast message requesting Maya's presence for a briefing. Her laptop blinked with a new message from a journalist she didn't recognize. Are you available for a quick interview? Your screenshot could save others from the same treatment. Maya stared at it. A small smile touched her lips. Finally, someone is listening. The first internal meeting began at 10 a.m. Maya joined the video call, dressed in a simple navy blouse and slacks, hair pulled back neatly. Claire, the manager, flanked by 2 HR representatives, looked tense. The director of the partner firm joined remotely, face tight, expression guarded. Maya, Claire began, voice steady but wary, we're here to discuss the post. Yes, Maya said, settling her laptop on the table. We can. HR interjected. We need to ensure the situation doesn't escalate further. I've done nothing but document facts, Maya replied. And yes, the post is public. It's already escalating on its own. The director leaned forward, jaw clenched. This reflects poorly on our firm. I see, Maya said evenly. Then let's focus on correcting the behavior rather than silencing the documentation. A tense pause. No one spoke. Jordan, sitting at his desk nearby, texted, "You're owning this. Proud of you." Maya read it quietly, a surge of calm. For years, she had been careful to cover herself, to note every slight, every dismissal, every microaggression. Now those records were their own force. Legal, documented, undeniable. By noon, social media analytics lit up like a heat map of exposure. Shares multiplied. News outlets continued to pick up the story. Supportive messages arrived from former colleagues, fellow black professionals, and advocacy groups. It was no longer just a single post. It was an amplified call for accountability. Yet the vitriol persisted. Anonymous users speculated about her motives, questioned her capabilities, and even suggested she was exaggerating. She scrolled past most of it, noting the familiar patterns. Criticism was easy to manufacture. Evidence was harder to dismiss. Her phone rang again. This time, a journalist from a major outlet. Maya Carter. The voice said, "Calm, professional. I'd like to interview you about workplace discrimination and documentation. Your post is making waves." Maya paused, a nervous flutter in her chest. Then she nodded to herself. "Yes, I'm available." She looked out the window at the city below. Rain had returned, tapping lightly against the glass. Streets gleamed with reflections of streetlights and neon signs. The same city she had walked through every day now seemed charged, alive, aware. Her inbox pinged. A message from HR. "Please remove or edit the post while we resolve this internally." Maya leaned back in her chair, fingers folded, eyes steady. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not this time." The algorithm had noticed. The public had noticed. And now, the firm, the partner, HR, and even her own leadership had no choice but to notice. A knock at her door made her jump slightly. She wasn't expecting anyone. She opened it to find Jordan, umbrella dripping, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "They are trying to spin it, but it's too late," he said. "You've got everyone watching." Maya nodded, eyes distant. Let's see what happens when the record speaks for itself. The rain picked up, heavier now, drumming against the roof. The city moved on below, unaware of how one screenshot had started a ripple that might just change everything. Maya closed the door, leaned against it, and exhaled. The world outside had shifted, but the hardest part, watching the system she trusted fracture, was only beginning. Maya sat in the small, sterile conference room, the hum of the overhead fluorescent lights pressing down on her shoulders. Claire, her manager, and two HR representatives faced her across the polished table. Their eyes flicked between her laptop screen and the stack of printed screenshots she had brought, her reply, the original comment, the email thread documenting months of microaggressions. "Maya," Claire began, voice tight, "we need to discuss how this situation has unfolded." Maya leaned forward slightly. "You mean the exposure of systemic bias in a partner firm director's racist remarks?" HR shuffled papers. "We understand your concerns, but the visibility of this post is delicate. The company wants to maintain professionalism." Maya's jaw tightened. She had heard this line before, professionalism. It always came at the cost of the person harmed, never the person harming. Professionalism, she repeated, letting the word linger. Is that what we call dismissing someone's lived experience while protecting the offender? Claire's hand lifted as if to interrupt, but Maya continued. "I am here to document reality. That's professional. Ignoring this, covering it up, or telling me to remain silent, that is unprofessional." One HR rep, a young woman with a tight ponytail, shifted in her chair. "We're also concerned about how this appears externally. You've already drawn media attention." "I noticed," Maya said, voice calm, but firm, "and that attention is deserved. People need to see what has been happening behind closed doors." Claire sighed, leaning back. We just want to avoid reputational damage. Perhaps removing or editing the post temporarily would help us manage this. Maya held her gaze. Let me get this straight. You're asking me to hide evidence of discrimination to protect the company's image. Silence filled the room. The air felt heavier with each second. Yes, Claire admitted quietly. We are trying to manage optics while investigating internally. Maya shook her head slowly. That's not professionalism. That's complicity. And I will not participate. Another HR representative cleared her throat. We also received feedback from colleagues who are concerned about escalation. Some feel uncomfortable with public attention on internal matters. Uncomfortable. Maya's voice rose just slightly. They should feel uncomfortable. They should examine why a colleague needed to post screenshots to make sure her experience is recognized. The discomfort belongs to those enabling bias, not the person subjected to it. Claire rubbed her forehead. Maya, we're trying to handle this delicately. It's a sensitive environment. Maya exhaled, measured. Sensitivity does not excuse injustice. Accountability does. You can choose to prioritize reputation or truth, but you cannot have both without consequences. My post is factually accurate. My documentation is real, and I will not compromise either. There was a pause. The silence was almost auditory, heavy, deliberate, full of the tension of power tested and boundaries crossed. One HR representative, younger and quieter, finally spoke. If you proceed as you are, this may escalate further externally. There could be legal implications, media exposure, pressure from the partner firm. Maya nodded. I understand. That's exactly why I have every email saved, every comment documented, every step recorded, so that when scrutiny comes, it is the system and the behavior that answer, not me. Claire exchanged a glance with HR. You are aware of the possible consequences for your career. I am aware, Maya said. I have already considered them, and I prepared for them. That professionalism. A tense minute passed. Then Claire leaned back, expression unreadable. You're committed. I am, Maya said, her tone final. Committed to truth, accountability, and the dignity of myself and others affected. The HR rep with a tight ponytail scribbled something on her notepad. Maya's gaze flicked over it. Words, risk management, escalation, external communications. The words did not shake her. They had not broken her. They had only affirmed the stakes. When the meeting ended, Maya left the room with her laptop tucked under her arm. The hallway felt unusually quiet. Office chatter had dulled, replaced with a low hum of tension and curiosity. Whispers followed her steps. A colleague passed her, eyes wide but avoiding words. Some nodded in subtle support. Others pretended not to notice. Back at her desk, Maya opened her email. A new message had arrived from the journalist who had reached out the day before. We'd like to interview you today. Can you spare 20 minutes? She smiled faintly, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The day's meetings had tested her patience, her resolve, and her energy. Yet here was the opportunity to control the narrative, to frame the truth rather than remain a silent subject of it. Jordan popped his head over the cubicle wall. Ready for round two? He asked, trying to lighten the tension. I am, Maya said. It's time people understand what professional silence really costs. Her reflection in the monitor's black screen stared back at her, steady, resolute, unwavering. Every time she had swallowed words, every time she had been told to be patient, every time she had had to navigate microaggressions while maintaining a smile, had brought her here. She typed back the journalist. Yes, I can speak now. And as she hit send, Maya felt a strange mix of fear and liberation. Fear for the escalation, for the backlash, for the inevitable scrutiny. Liberation in knowing she was no longer the passive observer, no longer the person told to ignore or accommodate bias. She was a witness, a recorder, and now, finally, the narrator. Outside, the sun broke through gray clouds for a brief moment, light streaking across the concrete city streets. The office walls did not capture it, but Maya noticed. The professional mass around her had been shaken, if only slightly, and Maya knew, with a quiet certainty, that things would never be the same again. Miles Bennett tapped his fingers against the polished oak desk in his downtown office, the muted hum of air conditioning filling the silence. He stared at his laptop screen, jaw tight, eyes narrowing as a digital avalanche unfolded before him. His carefully curated image, the partner firm director, the calm, authoritative voice in meetings, was unraveling. How? He muttered under his breath. He had deleted the comment within minutes, thinking that would erase the evidence. Yet somehow it had been captured, shared, and broadcast. The screenshot showed his words exactly. Figures. Diversity high-bragging again. Simple. Dismissive. Cruel. Enough to make the firm squirm. He leaned back in his leather chair, letting out a slow, controlled breath. Years of operating with implicit authority, of bending colleagues to his preferences without consequence, had never prepared him for exposure. He thought of Maya Carter. Quiet, composed, precise, a woman he had underestimated repeatedly. Now her single screenshot was wielded like a weapon against him. He opened the chain of internal emails, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. HR had already circulated the screenshot internally. Legal had been looped in. Even the media had reached out. Panic prickled at the edges of his calculated demeanor. "Damn it," he whispered, running a hand through his short brown hair. He imagined her calm face, her brown eyes steady, the faint tilt of her head as she clicked send. That one action, so minimal on the surface, had toppled the careful constructs of his reputation. Miles' assistant knocked lightly and entered. "Sir, calls are coming in. HR wants a meeting, legal too," and she hesitated. "The media is asking for comment." "Cancel everything," he said sharply. "Except HR. I'll deal with them first." "Yes, sir." She hesitated, concern etched in her brow. "Are you sure we can contain this?" He didn't answer. He didn't know if containment were possible. In his mind, he replayed every meeting, every casual remark, every subtle snub toward Maya. Moments that had seemed inconsequential. Moments he had dismissed as harmless or trivial. They now formed a damning pattern, one meticulously documented, and now in the hands of someone he had considered powerless. He opened a private email to a senior colleague. "Can you intervene? Maya Carter is escalating this publicly. She's threatening our image." He paused before hitting send. The truth settled in. The issue wasn't just him. His peers, the systems, ours cautious in action, all of it was under scrutiny. A chain reaction he hadn't anticipated. Another notification appeared. A Twitter thread had started, tracking corporate microaggressions with his firm tagged. His name, his words. The screenshot, shared again, gained traction. Social media, like a living organism, had taken hold of the narrative. The algorithm favored transparency, it seemed, or at least exposure. He slammed the laptop closed, the sound echoing through the office. His hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm veneer he worked so hard to maintain. In the mirror across the office, his reflection stared back, composed but shadowed by unease. For once, he felt the weight of accountability pressing against him, the way he had long imposed it on others. Miles leaned forward, staring at the desk, and spoke aloud, though no one was there to hear him. "This isn't just about a comment. It's about control. It's about authority. And I didn't lose control. Did I?" Silence answered. The rain outside began again, gentle at first, then heavier, tapping the office windows. The city's rhythm continued, indifferent to his panic. Yet each droplet seemed to echo the realization. His power was not absolute. It never had been. He picked up his phone and scrolled through the notifications. Emails from HR, legal counsel, and even his own manager demanded a response. He paused over one subject line. Internal review, immediate action required. A cold knot formed in his stomach. He realized that the pattern was undeniable. His words, his dismissals, his microaggressions, all documented, all visible. And the person holding this record was Maya Carter, unwavering and meticulous. He swallowed hard. Fear mingled with anger. The anger, sharp and bitter, reminded him of the power he had wielded. But fear had never felt so heavy, so invasive. He could no longer control the narrative. She had seized it, shaped it, and now it moved faster than he could respond. His assistant returned, tentatively. "Sir, HR is here." He straightened his tie and rose, attempting the veneer of authority. "Thank you," he said, voice tight but firm. Let's hear what they have to say. As he walked toward the conference room, Miles realized that the old rules no longer applied. The subtle smirks, the whispered dismissals, the power behind the door, they were all collapsing under the weight of evidence, exposure, and one determined woman. The realization hit him like a punch. He had underestimated her. He had underestimated the system of accountability, the public eye, and the precision of her documentation. For the first time in years, Miles felt powerless. Outside, the rain intensified, washing the streets clean, reflecting the city's lights like shattered glass. And somewhere, in her apartment, Maya Carter prepared for the next step, unaware of how much impact one screenshot could wield and how one person's courage could fracture a carefully constructed empire of privilege. By the next morning, Maya's inbox had become a storm. Alerts, notifications, and emails cascaded in ways that threatened to drown her focus. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, coffee forgotten, as the digital world acknowledged the chain reaction she had initiated. Every media outlet that had picked up the story linked back to her screenshots. Every retweet, post, and article became a thread in a tapestry she hadn't imagined weaving so quickly. Her phone buzzed again. A journalist from a major national outlet called. "Maya Carter," he asked. "We're covering stories about workplace discrimination and social media accountability. Are you willing to speak on the record?" "Yes," Maya said without hesitation. She hung up and took a deep breath. It was strange, exhilarating and terrifying at the same time, to see months of frustration distilled into something that commanded attention. The partner firm director's comment, once a quiet barb in the digital shadows, now echoed publicly. She had become the living record of an injustice many preferred to ignore. The first interview began via video call. Maya's posture was calm, controlled, but her mind raced. Questions were direct. Did you anticipate this attention? Do you feel your employer is complicit? What do you hope this exposure will accomplish? She answered steadily, citing emails, screenshots, and HR interactions. Her voice was measured, her points precise. The journalist nodded, occasionally taking notes, occasionally leaning closer to capture the emphasis in her tone. As the interview ended, she leaned back in her chair, letting the weight of the exposure sink in. The screenshot wasn't just a social media artifact anymore. It was now public record, evidence of behavior that had been quietly tolerated for far too long. She glanced at her laptop screen and noticed a new article circulating in internal Slack channels. Senior director's microaggressions exposed by employee documentation. Her co-workers' responses began trickling in. Messages of support mingled with subtle fear and hesitation. "Proud of you," one read. "Stay safe." Another, some whispered their own stories, validating hers. Others remained silent, too afraid to speak openly. Jordan sent a quick message. "It's hitting all the right spots. The firm can't ignore this now." Maya smiled faintly, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She opened the HR response thread, an internal memo sent firm-wide. Carefully worded, it acknowledged the issue without admitting liability. "We are committed to fostering a respectful workplace," it read. "All concerns will be addressed appropriately." But the memo also reflected the cracks in the system. The director's actions, once shielded by hierarchy and politeness, were now visible. Evidence, clear and undeniable, had made it impossible for the firm to remain silent. The documentation of repeated microaggressions and dismissive behavior forced them to confront patterns they had preferred to ignore. Maya's phone pinged again. Another journalist, this one from a business-focused outlet, requested an interview to discuss systemic bias in corporate culture. Maya agreed, realizing that her story had grown beyond herself. It had become a case study, a reflection of an institution, a pattern visible to anyone paying attention. She looked out her apartment window. The city buzzed below. Rain had left the streets gleaming, and commuters moved quickly, unaware that one employee's quiet act of resistance had started rippling across multiple sectors. For the first time, Maya allowed herself a small measure of relief. The system was not perfect. Exposure did not guarantee immediate change. But she had shifted the narrative. She had provided evidence that could not be erased, a record that validated not only her experience but the experiences of countless others who had been told to stay silent. The days stretched on. More articles appeared online. Corporate responses, careful and calculated, trickled in. The director requested a private meeting, a chance to explain himself, perhaps to salvage his reputation. Maya considered the request briefly, weighing the value of confrontation against the energy it would demand. She replied simply, "I will attend, with HR present. Facts only." That evening, she reviewed the accumulated documentation, screenshots, emails, meeting notes. Everything she had saved now formed a coherent narrative, one that could withstand scrutiny from legal, corporate, and public perspectives. She labeled each file meticulously, creating folders not just for herself but for anyone who might one day need to understand what had occurred. Jordan stopped by later, bearing coffee and a wry smile. "Looks like the system finally noticed," he said softly. "It's not perfect," Maya replied, sipping the bitter liquid. "But it's a start. Evidence matters. Facts matter. Accountability matters." He nodded, glancing at the screen filled with news links and internal memos. "And you made it happen with one screenshot." Maya allowed herself a quiet smile. "Sometimes that's all it takes." The city outside moved on, indifferent yet reflective in its own way. Inside her apartment, Maya felt the subtle weight of responsibility settle over her, not just to herself, but to the record she had created, the precedent she had established, and the countless others who might find courage in documentation. Her phone buzzed one final time that evening. A notification from HR. "We are initiating a formal review based on the evidence provided." Maya closed her laptop. She leaned back, letting the chair support her fully. For the first time in months, she felt the strange mixture of fear and satisfaction that came with knowing the truth was now unignorable. The algorithm had noticed, the public had noticed, and the firm, finally, had to notice as well. And in that moment, Maya realized she was no longer alone in holding the record. The fallout arrived gradually, like the slow rumble of distant thunder before a storm hits. Maya sat at her desk on Monday morning, coffee cooling beside her, watching as the internal Slack channels lit up with whispered conversations, forwarded articles, and muted speculation. Her screenshot had catalyzed more than media coverage. It had triggered a ripple through her workplace that no one could ignore. Claire messaged her first thing. "Please join the meeting with HR and legal at 10 a.m. Maya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she reviewed her documentation one last time. Emails, screenshots, meeting notes, her careful annotations. Every word she had preserved now acted like a shield and a sword. She opened her laptop and marked every piece of evidence clearly, ready to defend the truth without embellishment. At 10 a.m., the call began. Claire, 2 HR representatives, and the company's legal counsel appeared on screen. Even the senior director, Miles Bennett, joined reluctantly, his expression carefully neutral. The tension was palpable. "Maya," Claire began, voice tight, "thank you for joining. We need to address the situation in full transparency. Legal and HR have reviewed the documentation you provided." "I understand," Maya said, calm but firm. Her fingers rested lightly on the keyboard. "I'm here to ensure the facts are represented accurately." HR leaned forward. "Based on your documentation, there will be a formal review regarding the senior director's conduct. This includes prior complaints and the recent public exposure." Miles shifted in his seat, jaw tight. I want to clarify that any perceived offense was unintentional." Maya's eyes met his through the screen. "Intent does not erase impact. Your words were documented. They are not just perceived, they are recorded. That's what accountability looks like." The room went quiet. The legal counsel cleared her throat. "Given the public attention and internal evidence, the company is obligated to respond appropriately. This may include professional consequences." Maya nodded, resisting the urge to let satisfaction show too strongly. Justice was not a spectacle. It was a process, messy and imperfect. After the meeting ended, Slack notifications pinged relentlessly. Colleagues whispered about the senior director's likely demotion, possible suspension, or even termination. Maya read the threads, noting the mixture of admiration, fear, and cautious distance. Some congratulated her privately. Others avoided acknowledgement, perhaps fearing their own complicity will be revealed next. Jordan leaned over her cubicle wall. "People are finally talking about patterns, not just this one incident." Maya exhaled. "Yes, but it's heavy. seeing how many stayed silent for so long. Silence is powerful, and it protects more than just the guilty. By mid-afternoon, HR sent a follow-up email detailing the launch of a formal investigation. The message was clinical, devoid of emotion, but it carried weight. The senior director's position was under review, and external consultants had been hired to ensure impartiality. Maya closed her laptop for a moment and leaned back, thinking about the cost. The scrutiny, the spotlight, the media attention, it wasn't free. She had lost the illusion of quiet, of safety, of being able to navigate her workplace without constant vigilance. Colleagues looked at her differently now, some with respect, some with envy, some with cautious suspicion. Her phone rang. Naomi's voice came, warm but tinged with concern. "How are you holding up?" Maya smiled faintly, exhausted, but relieved. "Things are moving in the right direction." "Good," Naomi said. "Just be careful. People notice you now." "I know," Maya replied. "And that's fine. Visibility isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary." The day ended with a sense of precarious equilibrium. The senior director had been asked to step away temporarily, his influence diminished but not entirely gone. Internal whispers suggested potential legal ramifications and reputational fallout. Maya knew the process would be slow, messy, and imperfect, but progress was happening. That evening, she returned home, drained but contemplative. She looked at the rain-soaked streets from her apartment window, the city glowing under the neon lights. It seemed unchanged, yet she knew the currents beneath were shifting. The firm, its culture, and the people who had tolerated silent microaggressions were now being forced to confront their choices. Maya sat at her desk and opened her folder labeled Record. She reread the emails, the screenshots, the meticulous documentation she had compiled over months. Every note, every line, every timestamp mattered. This was not about vengeance. It was about truth, accountability, and preventing others from being dismissed or silenced. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jordan. "You did this. You changed things." She allowed herself a deep, quiet breath. "We did," she whispered, thinking of every colleague who had quietly endured bias, every friend who had shared their story privately, every system that had failed to act until evidence forced at hand. Yet even as relief settled, a shadow remained. The personal cost, stress, sleepless nights, and the emotional toll was undeniable. Visibility had consequences. Standing for truth carried burdens. But Maya understood, with resolute clarity, that integrity demanded this weight. She closed her laptop, letting the dim light of the city fill the room. Outside, the streets gleamed wet and reflective, carrying the rhythm of a city oblivious to the battles waged within office walls. But within her apartment, Maya felt a quiet victory. One that was hard-earned, imperfect, and real. Justice had begun, and she had been its quiet catalyst. The aftermath of exposure was not clean. It was jagged, like shattered glass reflecting both light and shadow. Maya felt it in ways that no headline or internal memo could convey. She returned to work the next week under a new layer of scrutiny, not only from her colleagues, but from herself. Every conversation, every email, every glance felt intensified. Her friends noticed. Naomi called first thing Monday morning. "You're different," she said softly. "I don't mean changed, but burdened." Maya sighed, rubbing her eyes. "I didn't expect it to feel like this. People are finally listening. Yes, but it doesn't erase the nights I spent replaying meetings, the microaggressions, the subtle dismissals." "It's heavy," Naomi said, "and you carried it alone for so long." Maya nodded. "And now, even though things are shifting, I feel exposed. Everyone knows I fought back. Some admire it, others resent it, and I can't undo that." Back at the office, the subtle dynamics had changed. Colleagues whispered with caution. Some avoided eye contact. Others offered quiet nods of acknowledgement. Maya noticed the senior director, now seated in a different part of the floor, moving like a shadow of his former self, calculated, careful, aware. HR conducted follow-up interviews, asking questions about culture, reporting structures, and internal patterns. Each session left Maya drained. She answered calmly, meticulously, and honestly. Yet by the end of the day, she often felt the weight of being both witness and participant in a system she could not fully control. Even social interactions outside work carried cost. Friends she had once confided in now hesitated, uncertain how to navigate her visibility. Some offered praise, but others tiptoed around conversations, afraid to acknowledge the fallout or risk association. Maya realized that standing for truth came with personal isolation. Recognition and justice were intertwined with loneliness and anxiety. Her evenings were spent rereading documentation, ensuring every screenshot, every email, every timestamp was preserved. Sleep was shallow. Her thoughts spun through every possible scenario of retaliation, dismissal, or misrepresentation. Yet there were moments of clarity. At a small coffee shop, she overheard a conversation between two young professionals discussing the viral post. "It's amazing she documented everything," one said. "I wish more people did that." Maya allowed herself a small smile. It was a reminder that her effort had meaning beyond immediate consequences, that her courage and documentation could empower others, illuminate patterns, and challenge entrenched behavior. Still, she acknowledged the cost. Emotional fatigue, social strain, and the constant awareness of scrutiny were burdens she had never asked for, but had willingly shouldered. Accountability required sacrifice, and she had learned that the battle for justice was as taxing internally as it was externally. That evening, she sat in her apartment, reviewing the record she had built. Each folder, meticulously named and preserved, represented hours of stress, careful attention, and unwavering resolve. Each file was a testament, not just to the incident, but to her persistence in the face of systemic disregard. Her phone vibrated. A message from Jordan. "They are finally taking action. You've changed the conversation." Maya exhaled, letting the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. "Yes," she whispered to herself, "but at what cost?" She thought of the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the quiet isolation. The visibility she had fought for brought with it its own weight, a reminder that justice often arrives unevenly, accompanied by sacrifice. Yet as she gazed out at the rain-slicked streets, the city alive with motion and light, she understood something essential. She had preserved the truth. She had shifted the narrative, held the record, and forced the system to confront itself. And though the personal cost was high, the outcome, justice, accountability, awareness, was worth the burden. Maya knew that moving forward would require vigilance. She would have to navigate new dynamics, new judgments, and new responsibilities. But she also knew that the work she had done, careful, deliberate, unwavering, was permanent. It had become part of the public record. And in that permanence, there was power. The final chapter of the ordeal began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Maya sat in her apartment, laptop open, reviewing the digital archive she had meticulously maintained. Every screenshot, every email, every timestamp, lined up like soldiers standing guard over the truth. The screenshot that had started it all sat at the top of the folder, unassuming yet explosive in its simplicity. Figures. Diversity higher bragging again. Those 7 words had triggered ripples that no one, not even she, could have anticipated. One image had exposed a pattern, revealed a failure, and forced accountability. A notification timed. Another journalist request. Another request for commentary. Another acknowledgement from colleagues who had remained silent until now. Maya didn't respond immediately. She let the moment breathe. Let the weight settle. This was the culmination of months of persistence, observation, and courage. She leaned back, eyes tracing the rain streaked across a window. Chicago was calm tonight. Streets wet, lights shimmering, the city carrying on as if nothing had changed. But inside, everything had shifted. The senior director had been suspended pending further review. HR had issued new guidelines on reporting and documentation. The firm's leadership had been forced to confront patterns they had long ignored. Maya reflected on the personal cost. The sleepless nights, the constant tension, the scrutiny from colleagues and strangers alike. Standing for truth was never without sacrifice. She felt the lingering fatigue, the emotional weight that came with visibility, and the subtle loneliness that accompanied being the catalyst for change. Yet there was also a sense of resolution, however imperfect. The abuser's authority had crumbled. Systems had begun to respond. The record was unassailable. And Maya herself had grown in ways no headline could capture, resilient, precise, unshaken by attempt to diminish her voice. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Jordan. "You did it. You held the record." They can't take it away. Maya smiled faintly, acknowledging the truth in his words. The screenshot was more than just evidence. It was a symbol of resistance, a reminder that even in environments structured to silence, one voice, documented, deliberate, unwavering, could challenge entrenched injustice. She opened the screenshot once more, fingers hovering over the file. It no longer carried anger or the sting of the initial insult. It carried validation, accountability, and the weight of history. It was a testament to persistence and precision. Maya saved the folder one last time, labeling it clearly, record, permanent. She knew that it could never be erased, manipulated, or ignored. It had become a touchstone for accountability, a record of both harm and courage. Looking out at the city, Maya felt a quiet, measured pride. The world was imperfect. Justice was slow and uneven. But for once, a single act, careful, deliberate, unwavering, had shifted the balance. She closed her laptop, letting the quiet of her apartment fill the space. Outside, rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean, reflecting the glow of city lights. And within her, a sense of closure took hold. Not finality, not triumph, but the certainty that the record endured. The screenshot had done its work. Maya sat back, letting herself breathe. She had preserved the truth. She had forced accountability. And though the personal cost had been high, she had ensured that one small act could echo far beyond a single comment, beyond a single email, beyond the walls of a single office. One screenshot, one voice, one record. The story, imperfect and ongoing, would continue, but she had done her part, and that was enough.